Let me inspire you. Let me inspire you. Let's get started. Welcome! You're tuned in to yet another episode of Speak It Out and Sing It Loud. I am so excited because once again, I am bringing on one of my friends. As I told you, Speak It Out and Sing It Loud is all about me bringing on friends of mine or old friends of mine, new friends of mine that are doing great things in this world. My guest, I had the privilege to share a stage with him. Back in 1988, when I went solo as Arlene, solo artist, I put out a record called We Can Work It Out. Now, We Can Work It Out, we had already finished it and recorded it, and we accented trumpets. Ba-ba-ba-ba-dum, ba-da-dum, ba-ba-ba-dum. Well, my manager got a brilliant idea back then, and he said, why don't we hire a real professional trumpeter and have him go on stage with you? Well, yes, that was a wonderful idea. And the guest that I'm bringing on today, that's him. He's a composer, a maestro, a songwriter, a chorista, oh, all around so much. I am excited. I want him to share a bit of his journey, to encourage you, and to also let you know a little bit about the man behind the art. Let's get started. Well, here we have him, my friend, Willie Ruiz. Hi, Willie. Welcome to Speak It Out Loud.
Hello. I'm going to speak it out today, not sing it, because my voice is a little shot.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I had spoken about you at the intro and said some wonderful things about you. I know that you're a very busy man, but I have the pleasure to have you as my close friend. So I am able to, get you on. So Willie, I'm so glad to see you doing so much better. I want to open right away with the Speak It Out part of this show of mine on Adelante with Arlene on YouTube, because you just went through COVID-19 and you can please share your testimony on what it was like to actually have it.
Yeah, it's, no one ever expects it's going to be you that's going to happen to you. You know what I'm saying? Because I see all the irresponsibilities with the people, how they're acting, and people are congregating too much or not wearing masks. And and especially the younger generation has to realize, because sometimes what's scary about this virus is that you could be young, you can have a strong immune system, and you can carry it and not even know it. But you can give it to somebody else that gets affected and perhaps die if they have pre-existing medical issues, and stuff like that. And it was, like we started the pandemic last year in March when we went down to when the whole country pretty much closed down. And I didn't get sick because I always take care. I exercise, I take vitamins and so forth. So I didn't get sick at all during the high rates of everybody. Like, we were losing thousands of people per day, from March to April to May, et cetera, et cetera. Even my aunt passed away, unfortunately during that time. And it was so unfortunate. I couldn't even see her. I couldn't even go and there was no funeral, nothing, to pay my last respect, which is sad. And not to mention all the other people who have passed away in the hospital alone without their family, because they weren't allowed to go in during this pandemic. And I went almost a whole year, and then January came in, and I'm still trying to figure out the mystery, how the hell I got it. But one thing I definitely can, because it also could be airborne. I went to take a test, because I also work at Columbia University, and we have to get tested frequently. Mm-hmm. And what happened was, after the New Year's weekend, it was January 4th. I went and got my test and that test came out negative. But then during that week, going towards the weekend, that's I started to feel weird. I started to feel funny, and then or these symptoms just kept escalating. Kept escalating more and more until I went and got another test, and then that test came out positive, and I was
Mm.
shocked. And then
Mm.
and I'm telling you, I'm not congregating with nobody and everything, so I don't know how the hell I got it. I think I could might have gotten it maybe when I went to the school to get my test. After my first test, I came out negative. Maybe somewhere along the process, I might have breathed something that maybe somebody coughed or sneezed, or I might have touched something. Unknowingly, sometimes we're always rubbing our eyes, the nose. I could have probably did that, because remember, this reason why we're wearing masks is because this virus is also airborne. It could be lingering. Droplets could be lingering in the air, and you breathe it, and that's all it takes. So the other thing that also I think got me was that during the month of December, I was working multiple projects, and I was really burning the midnight oil, because I'm working at Columbia during the day, and then I will go to the studio, and I go to my studio to work on my music projects, and then the next thing you know, it's like I'm leaving the studio to go home. It's like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. So I'm doing this particular every day. So I'm assuming that my immune system probably got really weak, and I got susceptible to picking up the virus somehow, airborne, whatever. How I contracted it, I don't know. But I think also because it also happens before the pandemic, when I overdo myself, I tend to get a cold, or I tend to get the flu or something if I overdo myself. And then so now I have to be a little more careful.
So Willie, it happened to one of my friends. He was doing the same thing, taking precautions in New York City, and just for a moment, he took off his mask in an empty elevator, and he believes that that might have been the moment that he got infected.
Yeah.
That's how easy it is. Many people are not going to like what I'm about to say. I understand that there's no guarantees in life, but I believe that a mask helps. I also don't believe just any mask helps. I believe I happen to wear a mask, and I wear a shield when I go outside. I wear gloves because I can if I'm going to go to the store. I understand some jobs don't allow you to do that. I get that. But I think it's important to know that we really don't know that much about the virus. So the best thing to do is, like you're saying, is take care of your body. Be careful not to get too comfortable and think that you can, get so comfortable even around a family member. We don't know. Not even around a sibling. It just doesn't matter. I have not visited my nieces for an entire year now in a few months.
So me, I mean, I've been dying to go to Florida because I have my niece and nephew out
Right.
there. They're dying to see me. Plus, my nephew plays baseball, so I always go to his game. And we're praying that he becomes a prospect for the major leagues, because he's really really good. And and I want to visit my brother from another mother, my Mr. Chino Nunez, who
Yes.
me and him grew up together. We have a lot of history in the music industry. But going back to the COVID, folks, this is a very, very, very sneaky virus. Sneaky. And like I say, you could do all the best to protect yourself, and you still, because I wore my mask and I still got it.
Yes.
So my
Yes.
advice is
But
take
you
care of
did
your body.
But you did believe that it wasn't that you might have not got it because you wore the mask. What might have happened was when you took off the mask and you had to have the test done, as you said, you never know what was in the air, what happened to my friend. Also, you might have touched something. Okay, those are the things. So I don't think it's because you wore the mask. You kind of don't know exactly how it happened, but I believe that you had that idea of that moment. But let's go forward. You are now in what they call the long haul. You're feeling a little better. So how long has it been in your recovery period at this moment?
Well, I got knocked down on January, like after like that first week of January, after the New Year's weekend. Then I was totally sick the whole entire month of January,
Wow.
trying to recover. February, I started to feel better. My appetite started to come back, and finally, I started eating. And because I lost weight dramatically, I think I might have lost maybe like 5 to 10 pounds. Because I couldn't eat. I couldn't even eat anything hard or anything like that. It had to be like like soups or like oatmeal type of stuff. Soft stuff because I couldn't hardly swallow. Everything hard with because also one thing you also go through is like you get this incredible dryness in your mouth too.
Mm.
And it's hard to eat solid foods. So everything had to be liquid down. Soups and stuff like that. And but once I started to get my appetite, since I love to eat, boom, it was all straight. It was all straight ahead from there. And I think that started to get me my strength back. And
I'm
everything.
so glad, Willie. I'm so glad. Willie, let's go now into the beginnings of Willie Ruiz in the music business. I have worked with you, but I don't know your story. Let's get started now. When did you begin in the music, with the music? At what age?
Well, a lot of people. Well, I broke into the scene as a trumpet player, but originally, when I was a kid at the age of 9 and 10, and even smaller when I started at 5, I basically grew up more as a percussionist. But I just didn't have my name established as a top percussionist because once I picked up the trumpet in junior high school, I kind of got better with it. I kind of and and the trumpet's a very difficult instrument, to play. You got to practice every day and everything. But before that, I was always banging. I had my first pair of congas I had at the age of 10. Excuse me. At the age of 10, I had my first LPs, that I bought, and I was always practicing over Ray Barretto records and salsa records, a lot of fino. I used to buy the the vinyls, the finer. I used to put and I used to just play boom, you do my sacota and play all my stuff. So I thought at some point I was gonna end up being a conguero in the salsa scene because that was actually what I wanted to do. It was my dream. I love percussion. It's in my blood, sort of. And but then all of a sudden, I picked up the trumpet at the age of 14, and then in 3 or 4 months, my brother Orlando also was a trombone player. He had a friend, a friend of his, and so forth. That was a piano player. He started a little salsa group, local group in Brooklyn. And then they brought me down to play trumpet. And so then the group got established. The name of the group was Orquesta Realidad, and then all of a sudden, it was just me and my brother, me on trumpet and my brother on trombone. So little by little, I started to get my training playing with that because I still didn't have a fully developed embouchure where I can hit notes high and so forth. So because I was still in the process of developing my embouchure, but I started progressing with it, and by the time I was at the age of 16, then I started, in high school, since I always ended up being the best trumpet player in the section, they gave me scholarship, to go, a personal scholarship to go study in private music school, to get a private teacher, and then to get also to study some theory. And this was pre-college, before I got into college. And then during that process too, I was able to hook up my older brother Louis. I have a half brother. His name is Willie Ruiz, and he introduced me to this incredible trumpet player that was in the scene, Mr. Ray Maldonado. May he also rest in peace, because I lost him at a very young age too. If you don't know, back in the days, man, it was rough years, man. It was there. Everybody was doing heroin, the drug scene. It was crazy. So these musicians, as great as they were, most of them were in that whole thing. But Ray didn't die of that anyway. But I'm just saying, it was just a rough scene. But I met Ray Maldonado, and Ray Maldonado was at the time doing all the final records. He was also the lead trumpet player for Hector Lavoe. And so he started getting me in. He used to take me to the gigs with him. You know, like he turned out to be like a second father to me.
And how old were you by then when you were with these great men of musicians?
That's the crazy thing, because like I mentioned before, when I was practicing congas before trumpet, I'm listening to all these final records for all these top musicians that I idolized. You know, so at the age of 16, when I was and 17, when I started studying Ray Maldonado, I was actually
Wow.
seeing these guys in person. I was like,
Wow.
it's almost like being starstruck, you know. So I
Yes.
started dealing with them, and not only that, then Ray was always talking highly of me. He was always bragging to all his colleagues about me. Well, I got this student, man, you got to watch out for him. You know, he's gonna be the new guy in the scene, you know. And I did, and because of him and all the others that I got to meet, you know, along the way, I broke into the scene. After I graduated high school, at the age of 19, I was already playing professionally.
And Willie, what do you see now that, and we're going to talk about all the other things you do, with the younger up and coming musicians? Is there an advice you would give them? Because things have changed incredibly,
Yes.
obviously.
Well, you know, I was very fortunate to be part of the music scene in the late 70s and 80s when the business was booming. We were
Right.
working 7 nights a week. We were making lots of money, you know, lots of money, but playing as a musician. And then especially me, I was playing all genres. I was just not doing salsa. I was also doing jazz. I was playing with jazz big bands. You know, I was doing classical quartets, you know, so I would do all that. I would also playing with pop groups, you know, like R&B, funk, you know, so as a trumpet player. So my trumpet player career really picked up, and that time that was the time to be a musician. That was the time that you can really enjoy being a musician. Today, it's a different ball game. But since we still have a lot of young up and coming musicians and so forth, it's a different market, especially with social media. Now you have YouTube that kicks in. So the only advice I give to young musicians: if you just love what you do, if you love to do music, trust me, and it's not easy, but know the fact that there are a lot of musicians out here still today making a good living as a musician. But in order to do so, it takes a lot of work, a lot of practicing. You have to build yourself to a level where you are considered a number one. You know, like, you know, I mean, I you have to strike high. You know, you don't have to be number one, but you have to be good enough to be noticed, to build a reputation for yourself. And of course, the best way to get successful is to use the resources that you guys have now that we didn't have when I was growing up. I had to establish a reputation on my own as a player. You know, word of mouth gets around. Yo, you got to see
Right.
this guy. And we didn't have cell phones, so I would have the people. I could be out on a gig and somebody's calling my house on my landline, and the answering machine answers, "Oh, I need you for a gig," and everything. And then when I come back from a gig, I would get the message. You know, like when we're today, we can get a text and we can answer right away or something like that. But I had to wait to go home to get my messages. And sometimes coming from a gig or a rehearsal, I would see like 10 messages on my answering machine of people: "I need you for a recording session. I need you to make this rehearsal with me, blah, blah, blah," etc. You know, so that's how it was back in our days, you know. So now today you use the resources, for example, you know, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, to publicize your music. Now you also have we have easy access to doing our own videos with a freaking iPhone. You can choose a good quality video and make a video of yourself and put it on there and give yourself a lot of promotions.
But
But
Willie, you said something about good reputation. So I got to say, it's not just a good reputation in being a person that's on time, being a person that's disciplined in music, being a person that shows up when he says he's going to show up, but you also have to be humble, a humble
yes,
person.
yes,
While confident, still humble. Sometimes what's lacking now, not all people, but in the newer generation, is that lack of humility. Everybody wants to be a star on YouTube or TikTok, when in reality, you know, you had to do it and I had to do it by auditioning. I also got discovered by word of mouth. So I believe that the humility factor is important because people are going to
Of
want to
course,
work with you more if you are a professional, on time, and a humble person
of course.
versus being a person who thinks they're a superstar. And even if they are a future superstar, humility is of most importance in this element. One thing I did learn from you, Willie, was that during the time of you and I working together that I mentioned, we can work it out and we could talk about that a little later more, that you always had your horn with you, your trumpet with you, you know? It was like you weren't going to wait till you got home that time because we didn't have cell phones. You wanted to make sure that you were ready. You were ready, or you would go and visit other places. And if somebody spontaneously said, "Hey, we need a trumpet player right now," boom, we want to book you, and you're right there. You were ready. You were ready. I recently saw an interview with saxophonist, and it's a woman, and she's very famous. I don't know her name. I think it's Candy, and I think she's from the Netherlands. And this woman said that she had met Prince, and because she was at this on the same stage, she wasn't as famous. This was when she was young, and as a result, somehow along the way, how Prince was very spontaneous. He had not treated her right. So she wrote him a letter. This is funny. And the father said, write the letter. And she said, oh, he's never going to see it. He did. So he sent her tickets. But after that, he spontaneously said one day as she showed up at the concert, come up on stage. I want you to perform. She did not have her saxophone.
Ooh.
So as a result, her father had to literally almost, he got in trouble and stopped by the cops to try to get a saxophone. And since Prince was in her neighborhood, in the Netherlands, in her area, and he was extremely obviously famous, the cops understood, my daughter has an opportunity to play with Prince, and I have to go get her saxophone at home. So the cops gave him, they put the sirens on and everything. It went really fast to get that.
Wow, that's
saxophone.
amazing.
And when I heard that story, it reminded me of you, because I remember that you were always prepared. And I believe what I'm saying right now is that we need to be prepared in and out of season, as we say in the church. You have to be ready. You have to be ready. I like the word you said, discipline. The reason I didn't play piano or an instrument was because I wasn't disciplined in that area. I couldn't see myself, Sometimes I do have a little bit of regrets about that because I would like to do my own productions. But instead, I was disciplined in singing. I would do like you did. I would make sure that I would hear a lot of other music. And at first I tried to emulate them, copy them, imitate them until you find your own style. I want to talk to you about your own style. I want to know, when did you feel that, at what age you think that you had come into understanding what was Willie Ruiz's style of music? Because anybody can sing the same kind of music, but what makes us original is a style, is something that becomes ours. When did you feel that you started saying, this is the Willie Ruiz touch? Like, about what age for you?
I probably was like, I would say like about the age of 23 to 24 years old. I started playing professional already at 19, but then by the time I got to 23, 24, because as I'm continue practicing, I was putting in close to 5-6 hours a day practicing on my horn. Minimizing the practice depending on how much work I have for the night, because you also have to save your chops, because after a while your chops get swollen, whatever. You have a lot of playing, and so you need, a trumpet is a very physical instrument, especially for the amateur. Their muscles here in their lips, that you press on the mouthpiece for to get the vibration of the notes. So it's a muscle. So just like a workout, you work out for it, your muscles start aching, and same thing. You gotta sometimes give enough rest too, in order to be able to be ready for the performance. Especially if you have a performance or recording session that day. So you have to prepare. So everything's preparation. You have to prepare all the time. But anyway, when I felt I got into my sound, like I said, my teacher Ray Maldonado, he was a very well. I'll give you a quick rundown. He also did recordings with Stevie Wonder. Ashford and Simpson. He was a jazz player, and he also did majority of the Fania All-Star record. He played with the Fania All-Stars concerts, you know, so he's been in the section many times, you know, so he was one of the elite players. Then so he had a big sound, a fat sound. So I started playing fat like him, you know, like with his big sound. And he was a guy that established a lot of technique. So since I started with him, I started practicing like triple tonguing, you know, you know, and playing like, you know, the scales with accuracy, you know, getting the quickness on the vowels and everything, you know, getting all the accuracies, you know, and technique, you know, and manipulating this. And then he also taught me phrasing, you know, like crescendo, attack, zabap, you know, because that's what acts, you know, that's what acts that makes swing. You know, when you play music, you don't want to, if you have a phrase, ba 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 ba, it's boring. You want zabap ba 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 zabap ba ba. You see, with the attack and everything, now you add, you know, some pizzazz, some swing to it, not just bland, you know, like ba 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 ba. Like some people, I see here people playing like that, so they just don't understand the concept of really playing music. So I had three guys that influenced the sound, because one of the things that as a trumpet player and musician in general is what I always enjoy is sound, tonality, and the pretty sound. I'm a sucker for the most pretty sound that you can get out of even a singer's voice or an instrument or somebody who plays a sax or a trumpet or flute. Some people generate this incredible tone that's so pretty, so full. So when Perico came in, and Perico was also a great player, just a totally different player than Ray Maldonado. Totally different, man. He had a more like a tropical sound. It's such a beautiful sound. When I heard him play solos, I fell in love with his sound. I said, shit, I want to be able to play like him, you know? And so then I started, you know, trying to copy his sound.
Right,
you know,
right.
like try to copy so I can, because obviously I'm not gonna, because he had a good sound, but he was also had a small sound, you know, he wasn't a power player like Ray Maldonado was, right? But since I had a big sound, I then started incorporating that tropical flavor into my solo. Another guy that I used to listen to in the jazz market was Freddie Hubbard. You know, Freddie Hubbard I loved his sound when he played flugelhorn and stuff like that. So then I bought a flugelhorn, and I wanted to sound when I played jazz like Freddie Hubbard, you know? So having these three guys, you know, that I was listening to, I also love Miles Davis too. Miles Davis, you know, had a unique sound as well.
You definitely, you studied many, you got influences from
Yeah.
many. What would be your sound? What is your sound? What is your style per se? I don't like to put you in a box because you can do anything.
Well, by combining those three guys that I just mentioned earlier,
right.
allowed me to create my own sound and style. So that sound, when you listen to my trumpet solos, you can tell. So it became like, for example, like you can listen to any trumpet solo on any record, and you can't tell who it is.
Right.
But I for example, I can listen to any trumpet player, every solo on different records that was by Luis Perico. I could tell his sound already. That was his signature. So every time I heard, and remember, Perico did a lot of great solos in albums, and I can tell it was him. The same with Ray Maldonado. I can tell it was a Ray Maldonado solo because I can tell his sound and the technique that he incorporates in his solo, right? So I established that same thing, because when people would hear me solo, they could tell it was me. They could tell, oh, that sounds like Willie Ruiz soloing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So you develop. So by like you said, by copying other people, eventually you start, because it's impossible that you're going to be identical to the person. You might be similar to the person, but that similarity, guess what, turns into your own style.
Nobody's ever told me that I sound like anybody, but when I did record a duo with someone, it was amazing how I heard her do one line, I heard me do another line, and because we both could be so raw and roaring, I took a step back and made mine a little less so that it would be a nice blend, or not it would be two people very, very powerful. But yet all in all, while I could say that we sounded similar, her and I, it was more about our tone. Our tone was similar and our pitch was similar, but the way that we executed it and the way that I breathed in a certain way made us two distinct people. So sometimes you can still work with other people that may have a same tone as you as a singer, a same pitch or whatever, but you can still be original and find your place in there. What I love about you, Willie, that working with you was such a blessing because, I met you when I was about 22 years old and I started with Leather and Lace at 19. When I met you, as I mentioned earlier in the video, my manager had it was brilliant that he decided that he wanted percussion. And if I'm not mistaken, then the trumpet came in too, both. And you were trying to do both, but the trumpet just like overcame it all is what I just loved. It became too much to have both things, on the stage. All I can tell you is I'll never, never forget the day that they set up your mic and somebody told you in the audience right there on the stage, are you really going to be playing? And you told them, stand right here. And when you blew, the person was like, "Oh my God, that is for real. That is for real." He was for real. You remember that?
Right? Because like a lot of the acts back in the days, like like you guys didn't have a band, so you guys didn't have dancers. Most people use dancers, so it's basically people mimicking, background, doing choreography kind of stuff. So they figure, okay, they got this guy, remember back in the days they had the long curly hair,
I'm gonna put some pictures up. I gotta look for that.
I was slimmer. I had a little 6-pack thing going, a little showing a little hair here, the sexy, and then
you had a little mustache, didn't you?
Right, and a little mustache and everything.
Yeah,
I don't keep it now because one side is gray, the other one is black. It kind of looks weird, So that's why I shave it off. So they figure, okay, so they got this model guy holding a trumpet. He's probably going to do all this kind of dancing routine and do this choreography. So that's probably people figured, but they, like you said, they didn't know I was going to play live until they saw the vapor. The vapor, the smoke vapor, like the what they call condensation, whatever, coming out of the bell of the trumpet. You could see because I was blowing ba ba beep beep and I'm doing the solos.
You did eventually, obviously, you went to college and you got a degree and you studied music further. Yes. Correct? What school did you go to? What university?
Well, I got my bachelor's through the City University CUNY, and then I went and further. At the time, I also was working with the musicians as a part-time to help, so get me some funds for college and stuff with the local 802, which was the musicians union. And then they introduced a master's program with Kingsborough and Lehman. And then I joined, and then I went and I did my master's and finished it off at Lehman College in the Bronx. So
See, I didn't know that because you didn't know that I was in Lehman College at the age of 17. And at 17, I was studying performing arts and I was studying to be a journalist as well. So I got signed at 19 to a recording contract, which then I left, as you know, and continued. And then I went to school when I was in my 30s and everything changed. So Willie, I'm hearing that a lot of your influences, obviously, were the wonderful people that you were surrounded that became your teachers, your mentors. And then I'm hearing that you then went on and you have a very disciplined life. A musician should have a disciplined life. And there's a lot of practice and a lot of things that you sacrifice. So Willie, do you believe that your sacrifice in life to give up many other things that you might have thought or people think you should have had, you're okay with that, correct? Because you love what you're doing. You made a decision.
Well, yeah, one of the things I sacrificed, to be honest with you, is becoming my own artist. Because I'm constantly producing people, teaching, helping people out. So I'm always putting them first, besides my own personal dreams, which is to at some point record my own CD. I had a dream to, I may be releasing a song this year finally after all these years. People keep telling, why don't you start your own thing? My colleague Chino Nunez, so he whipped out 2 CDs. you know, under his name as his own artist. You know, I haven't done, but the thing is, that's me. You know, I enjoy working with people, and I enjoy helping the young generation, and I've dedicated myself working with the young up and coming musicians. You know, and trying to keep them motivated. You know, so that's pretty been much my life. I get. And to be honest with you, I get a satisfaction out of it, because when I see them do well and see them flourish and do great things, you know, it makes me proud. It's like almost like I'm a proud papa.
When I was a single woman, I had to make a lot of sacrifices and choices that then made me get to a place and an age where I never had children. Now, you also made that sacrifice. So, but you have children because you're mentoring many young people. So they become your children per se,
Yeah.
too.
All the girls that I'm working with, and I have a bigger list of women clientele compared to male, because I feel the women are more dedicated. I've seen them more dedicated, and especially now, I before the pandemic, I was going to Japan every year. I have a bunch of students out there. I give seminars. I give vocal lessons. You know, I teach a lot of the Japanese there. They love Latin music. They love jazz. So I'm teaching them how to scat sing. I'm teaching them how to phrase. You know, as a vocalist. You know, to make the things swing. You know, because my knowledge as a trumpet player also it revolves against a vocalist too. When you sing, you have to sing with dynamics. You have to sing, you know, you have to make a certain phrase. You cannot sing a song like one tone and you know, you got to start soft. There's a build up point when you're going to come in,
That's
then
right.
it's going to go drop down. So you have to use vocal effects just the same way when I play the trumpet, I use vocal effects.
Yep.
I mean,
And some, I'm not boasting, but some people have it naturally, and it has to be,
right.
you know, like myself, and then you have to. But some people don't have it at all. I had an opportunity to teach a girl. This is going to shock you, but maybe not. An actress that does Disney, but she lives in California. Young teenage girl. This young girl, her father followed my music when he lived in New York, a New Yorker, former New Yorker from Brooklyn. He could have had any choice to have his daughter have some vocal classes. So at the beginning of the pandemic, online, I would have sessions with her.
Oh, nice.
And I was teaching her how to be a better singer. Mind you, I'm saying this again, not to boast, but to encourage others. I did not have any schooling for music, but I do have so much life experience. And the way that I taught her is the same things that I learned from you, learned from many, learned from my life experience, and how important the dynamics is, how important it is to take anything you, even as a trumpeter, as a percussionist, you don't look at it so much like it's a beat or it's a percussion or it's a sound. You look at it as a story. You know, you're part of a production. You're part of a story of music, you know, a composition of music. So when you look at the song, like you said, it cannot be sung like, I can't even imitate it because I don't sing that way, but you know what I'm saying? Let's say, because you know, I have a tender heart and a strong desire to be, well, okay, that's cute and everything, you know, but it has to be, I have a tender heart.
Right. You got to
And a
put
strong desire to be.
right. You have to
You
put
know?
right. You have to put, you know, feeling, emotion into it, you know, and
The dynamics.
Right.
And when I started and I listened to Tender Heart, I
right.
sing it pretty. It's pretty, but I sing it much better now.
I can imagine, yes, of course, because you know you learn with time. But you see, like as a vocalist, you know, if you take a young vocalist or a vocalist that doesn't know that, just by hearing you and watching you how you're doing it, they can still learn from that process. You know, girls that you know sign up to my program, they usually know they acknowledge that they can do these certain effects and they want to learn how to do it, and that's where they come in, and that's where I kick in and I start showing them how to go about it, how to teach them. You know, I do the demonstration, you know, and lucky for me that for some reason, like even when I was in doing the salsa, I've always had a high pitched voice, so I always did when they were used to choose me to do choros, I was always doing the lead, the top high voices because I resonate. I sing pretty strong. So because of that, I think that's one of the reasons why I've been able to sing. I mean, to work with a lot of female vocalists because because remember, if I was a baritone, it would be difficult to sing
Right.
the songs for them to demonstrate it, because I couldn't hit that range. But because I have a very strong falsetto range, I can sing. I can sing soprano. I can sing alto and soprano range because my falsetto reaches out there. So it's good enough for me to express, dynamics and phrasing and emotion when I'm working with a female singer on a particular song. So it allows me, and then they get it. One time I had a recording studio. This was not my project. I was just a hired musician there. So the producer was trying to help his female singer sing. So no, sing it like this. But the thing was, he was singing it in baritone range. So he was, and then the girl is trying to sing like him, and she's a girl.
Exactly.
And I said, listen, you have to. I intervene. I said, listen, you need to take what he's giving you. See, he doesn't have the high voice. You got to take it up an octave higher. But I think he's giving you the emotion and everything, but in a baritone range. But you got to sing it higher because because once again, this girl didn't have any musical experience either. So she was going by what? But what do you want me to sing? So in her mind, she probably thought, "Why you want me to sing that low? It's not my voice." So she didn't know. So I had to explain to them that, so then I was able to sing it to her in her range, and then she was able to get it. You see, but there are people out there that cannot work, that don't have the ability to work with female singers, especially when they're trying to teach them how to do phrasing and everything. That's why sometimes it's important for any female that wants to record to have a vocal coach with them, to guide them, in case if they're not 100% sure. Because if you're a natural, then you don't need nobody. They're women that never took, like you say, you go into a studio, boom, and you knock it out, and so if you got that going for yourself, you're good to go. But if you don't, then you need to get
Well, Ruiz, you experienced that with me. I went in there and I hit it and say it, and then
Yeah.
you just go, okay, try this. But that's just something I was blessed with, because I do believe, Willie, definitely in the discipline. You know me. I do believe that. But I also do believe in remembering that life experience, and being self-taught, like I have been a lot of areas of my life. It has been an advantage to my life, because people could get too technical and we lose out on the passion behind it all. And I know that you are very passionate about everything you do, and you sacrifice, and I call it a sacrifice, certain things in your life so far, such as doing a solo CD or whatever they call it right now, because you love helping other people. And that's what made you and I still stay friends, because you're very real, you're down to earth, but you're also very honest. If something doesn't sound good, you will let them know it doesn't sound good. And that's what a professional should do. We shouldn't try to do music so much to please other people. We need to do excellent music, great music. Now, Willie, since you got to write a book like I do. Realize I want to
somebody to write it for me because I have no time.
I wanted to ask you, what do you recall one of the most favorite people that you might have gotten the opportunity to be on stage with, work with, somebody of greatness?
Oh man, so many. Well,
other than me, no.
Well, growing up as a conguero, right? Growing up as a conguero, I used to practice. I was a big fan of Ray Barretto. I used to practice, with a lot of Ray Barretto. But of course, as a conguero, I couldn't get the opportunity to play with Ray Barretto because he's the conga player in his band. Because since I picked up the trumpet, I ended up playing lead trumpet. I was a lead trumpet player. The year 84, in 1984 to 85, I spent the year playing a lead trumpet with Ray Barretto. So that was like a dream that came true. Another person that I shared the stage with, which was amazing, was the great, female Cuban Celia Cruz.
Wow.
Playing with her and sharing the stage with her was amazing. I also got to perform with some great jazz artists. Slide Hampton. I was also a part of the orchestra. I got to also perform with Tony Bennett.
What?
In the big band. With I was a jazz. I had the second chair, which was the solo chair, and I was taking the jazz solos and stuff. So I did a concert with him. So the messed up part about all this that I'm telling you is that we didn't have cell phones. We couldn't, because if I did right now, I would have so much pictures. And I was the type of guy that I never carried. I missed a lot of opportunities to get great pictures with these artists that I performed.
I know what you mean because I remember that Leather Lace's second show after their debut in La Mirage was with Gloria Estefan. Back then, it was Gloria Estefan called the Miami Sound Machine. So it was my second show.
Yeah.
We knew she had already had years and years of success in different, internationally, but not really. She had not had. It was her first time, kind of in New York. People in New York knowing her, and I shared dressing rooms and don't have a photo. At that time, she was engaged. So I hear what you're saying. We didn't take a lot of pictures. We didn't have the videos now that we can take in a session or something.
And they were guys. Right, and there were guys that would carry cameras, but back in those days, some of these cameras were so bulky, and I just wanted to carry my trumpet,
yes,
come and go as I please. Sometimes I used to hit the bars after a gig to rap to a beautiful lady and have a beer or a drink. You know what I'm saying? After a gig, So the thing was, who the hell? And then, a lot. I see people carry. Remember the Polaroids, those big, massive cameras of Polaroid that you take out the slides and stuff like that. So a lot of people were carrying with their Polaroids. So I wasn't into that.
So you have your life experience. So you have evolved, and you obviously have done a numerous amount. So you compose music, arrange music, corista. Ahora es maestro, profesor. So is there any one of them that's favorite that you do, or you like them all? Is that what you like the most?
Well, like I said, everything was like everything of those things that you mentioned is they were all stepping stones, So like I told people, how can you make money in music, And I say you have to multitask because when the gigs are hot, you grab them while they're there, but eventually they slow down. So what are you going to do? Sit home, wait for a call to come in? So you got to do something else. Teach, write music, produce, do all kinds of other elements to keep you in the music scene, and at the same time keep you doing what you love to do, which is what I did. But of course, it takes also a certain amount of education that you have to also prepare yourself with, which is that's what was the purpose during my most busiest time of my life, performing. I was doing college, and I don't know how the hell I survived college, because taking 14, 16, 18 credits, they were kicking my butt, and college. Meanwhile, after I finished school, I had to go straight to a gig. So I barely was sleeping back in those days. But of course, I was a young pup. So I had a strong immune system. I was always in shape. I was working out, so I don't know. I used to sometimes go to class only with 2 hours sleep, finishing a gig at 4 a.m, and then I have a 9 o'clock class. I'm going in there with my shades, dark shades. I sit in the back. But what I did, since I had to drive, from Brooklyn to the Bronx when I was doing my master's at Lehman, it was all the way up there by
the water over there. By the Armory.
So I used to take an hour drive from Brooklyn to Lehman College on the expressway, going and coming. So I took advantage. And back in those days, our cars used to come equipped with a cassette player. Right?
Yes.
So a cassette player. So then I had like a portable cassette recorder, and I used to buy the 2-hour tapes. They used to sell the 60-minute tapes, the 2-hour tape. So I would take it to class with me, and then I would press record, and then in the back of the room I would take a nap. And I'm sleeping during the lecture because
you worked really hard. You're diehard New Yorker. Are you doing the classes now in Japan, teaching online? Are you doing them that way now?
Not yet. At some point, because I'm trying to now get back in the groove. But eventually,
still recovering.
The thing is recovering, but also I'm backed up on some projects. So I'd rather spend the time finishing these projects because doing the online thing is also time consuming, and I always, a lot of people always keep telling me, and especially myself, why don't you do a YouTube channel or something and do classes so we could sign in, whatever. So eventually, maybe I'll get
Yeah,
around
what you
to that.
need to do, to tell you the truth, what it needs to be, because it shouldn't be free, a master class. That's
Yeah,
what they
yeah,
call. You
that's
need
what.
to do a master class. That is who you are. You're a professional. You do a master class, and people will have to pay to take the
Right.
class. Such an incredible pleasure to talk to you. I wanted to ask you another question. What would you tell your younger Willie self if you had a chance to say to younger Willie something? What would you tell him now that you're wiser?
Well, for starters, be wise with your money. Be wise with your money. So when you get an opportunity and you start making money, especially if it's your first time that you're making a large bulk of money, because I was totally reckless. I had no education and investments and everything. And to be honest with you, I should be rich right now. I should have at least maybe 2 or 3 brownstones in Brooklyn, because at the time when I was making a lot of money, they were going for like $25,000
Mm,
brownstones, and now they're like 3, 4, 5, $10 million a pop now. So
mm.
so that's one of my biggest regret. I was too involved in partying in the music scene. Once I was making money, I was just going out and treating people, and hanging out with women, and and spending my money like crazy, because I had no discipline as far as investing and looking out for my future. But that's one of the biggest advice that I would give a younger Willie coming up in the footsteps. Once you start making, but of course, the main one is stay consistent and be patient. Stay consistent and work on your craft to be the best that you can be. And then once you start making money, be smart with your money. Invest it. Also, if you need to enhance your education, use some of it to go to school, sign up to a class or whatever, or finish college if that's what you want to do, want to get a degree, because that degree will take you a long way. You can be teaching at a university level or school level if you want to go into teaching or anything, but that degree also will get you to other places in the near future, because that's what my master's degree did for me. It got me to a lot of different places, especially it got me the job at Columbia. Having an education and learning from everybody, learn as much as you can from everybody around you, all the musicians, all your colleagues. That's I was blessed to be playing with the best musicians all the time on stage. I was surrounded by bad dudes. I'm talking, these dudes were on top of their game. And, so every time one of my colleagues next to me do something, oh, that was nice. I took a note of it, nice. I like that. I like that line. I make sure I played it. I listened to it. I played it on my trumpet, got the notes, wrote it down. I'm going to take this and practice it, So that's
Well,
pretty much it.
I want to tell you that I am so grateful that I got to share a stage with you. I'm so grateful that I can still call you a friend or brother, and I love you dearly, and that I hadn't seen you face to face like this for years. But when I saw that you posted, or someone posted that you had gotten COVID, I reached out to you because you're my family. So no matter how many years we're apart, you're not just my friend, you're my family. You taught me how to compose my first song. And from there on, I have been able to know how to do this. I know how to do this because you said, hey, you got two. I remember I showed you some writings of mine, and it was like 2 pages long. And you said, in here, you have 2 songs. And this is what you can do. And that's how I ended up writing Who Will It Be for 1989, because you showed me. So I want to thank you. But most of all, you showed me how to be disciplined, how to have a heart, how to be humble and generous. But one of the biggest things you did was introduce me to another singer that was eventually going to bring me to the Lord. And because God used you to introduce this lady to me, because you knew what I was going through, you pointed me in the right direction. And I am now a Christian because of what God did through you. So I want to thank you for just introducing me to the woman that was going to, bring me to Christ. And it's going to be Willie 30 years from me. 30 years.
Nice, man. Congratulations. Well, that's how life is, man. Life works in great mysterious ways, and and like you said, it's all God's hands, because God creates all this stuff, and I also thank God for giving me a second chance, because I'm telling you, when experiencing COVID, I could have passed, I could have died there and then. So many people died, and like I said, I lost two colleagues, two music colleagues yesterday, young guys, a few years younger than me, and they're gone, and it's and this is real. People are dying every day, with this crisis we're dealing with right now. So everybody's just got to embrace life. Be thankful that you have every day of your life. Every time you get up in the morning, you got to give thanks to the Lord, because tomorrow may not be here, and then so you always have to get up every morning and focus on making that day the best day that you can be.
Amen. Yeah. I agree. And in closing, I got to say, I do the same thing. That I like to be creative. I don't get to sing anymore because of the pandemic, rather. Because of the pandemic, I'm unable to be a part of the musical team at the church that I was just about to start with. But the one thing I found, like you found, because you studied, you were able to still do what you love to do, music, in many different ways. You're still able to create. Well, I'm a talker, so I may not be singing, but I got the opportunity to create Adelante with Arlene on YouTube, and now Speak It Out, Sing It Loud as a segment. So there are different things that we can do during this time of this pandemic that can be constructive. And whether we went to school, which is a plus like you, or didn't finish it, I did go to school for biblical and pastoral and got my bachelor's in science, my BS. So I do have education as well to help me during the times that I'm doing the other videos that I do inspirationally. And now the Speak It Out, Sing It Loud is, of course, a more music-based and performance-based and all the above. But I thank you so much for coming on, for inspiring others, for sharing part of your long, big story that God's not finished yet, and for encouraging others to take care of themselves. People over here in Florida are very careless. There's a lot of people not wearing masks and all that. We're not to live in fear, but we're to live in wisdom. We need to have wisdom. So it's important to have wisdom. So you heard it here at Speak It Out and Sing It Loud. My guest, Willie Ruiz, is also my personal friend. And I want to thank you so much for joining me on this segment. And I just want to say I love you. And I want to put a few pictures up on this, which I will, so that others could see whatever pictures I have of you and I, because I don't have any other performances, but it's still you and I. So thanks again, Willie. I love you, and God bless you.
You too. Love you too, man, and many blessings to you always. And keep doing the great job you're doing with your show.
Thank you.
Let me inspire you. Let me inspire. You are watching Speak It Out and Sing It Loud on Adelante with Arlene.